Welcome, everybody. Tonight is November 27th. It is 7:35 p.m. You are watching the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission. We are in the lower level of the Town Hall. The first item on our agenda tonight is the consideration of November 13th, 2007 minutes. Take a moment for everyone to look at those. I had a couple things that I'd like to change just for easier reading. It's not much difference to the record itself. And to make it easier for you, Scott, since Katie is not here, and again, my failure, like I do every once in a while, is to introduce everybody. Let me stop and do that. I'm Charles Waskowitz. To my left is
Rick Miagioni.
Mike Robichon.
Walt Vesputa.
Drew Gunning.
Leslie Giovanelli.
Diana Ross.
And our staff tonight are Scott Allen, Enforcement Officer. Drew, if you'd like, you can reach over and grab the other microphone for yourself, just to make it easier on the way that. All right. Regarding the minutes again, thank you for that interruption. On page 3, under the public hearing, in that first paragraph, I just would like it to read a little better. Let me just read the way I would like to see it, and you can add these following words. It says, Joseph Codaspoti, comma, founder of Codaspoti and Associates. And I would like to add the word "and" there and drop the comma, and a representative for the applicant, then a comma. So he is, the founder of the associates and the representative for the applicant. He submitted an 8.5 inch by 11 inch. It just says 8.5 by 11. I know what you mean, but let's put inch so it's not misconstrued. Colored site plans of overlays and so on. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Is there to be a period after for the applicant and then start out new sentence he submitted?
That's fine. You could do that. I'd wanted it to be a comma after the applicant.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's why you
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
Just clarifying that.
In the next paragraph, I wanted to add just something. It says the commission, the very first sentence, the commission raised concerns regarding the height of the retaining walls, comma, the placement of the walls, extending some of the walls, and I'm not sure that it's not unclear, but I'd like it to be clear, extending the length of the walls. It's not, because I don't want them to what is meant by extending.
That's not going to be correct sentence.
By adding the words the length?
No, it's ing, extending. That has to change.
Extend the length, then you can drop the participle, drop the ing.
Extension?
Extension. Yeah.
Extension of some of the walls.
Yeah, my concern was I don't want it to be misconstrued as to width, if they're going to extend them. I want it to the length.
Length of some of the walls.
Yes, the length. And there are a few other odds and ends in there that you could change, but I'm not too concerned with them. I was not totally clear on the page 4, third paragraph from the bottom, which begins with the word discussion. If you all could just read that and let me know if you think it should be rewritten. I have some ideas, but want to hear from you as well.
Oops, request is spelled wrong.
I think that's supposed to be requests.
Yeah, I just got to
They got the T and the S, exactly. Diana?
I can't make any sense of the sentence either.
It's not clear the way it's written. Let's try this, and everyone help me. It says, discussion ensued among the commissioners and Mr. Codaspoti regarding the conveying of the property to the town for open space. I would like to put a period right there.
How about regarding the conveyance
Regarding the conveyance
of the property
to
the town for open space.
But then still a period. I'd like a new sentence to begin. Mr. Codaspoti asked whether the commissioners have any further questions or requests with the application, or for Dr. Abram, or with the materials or previously discussed topics, period. It's just not clear the way it's written. So I'd like that sentence again. Let me read it again. Mr. Codaspoti asked whether the commissioners have any further questions or requests with the application, or for Dr. Abram, or with materials or previously discussed topics, period.
I put, in the order, I put request with Dr. Abram, and then the things that are after it, then the application, and then other items which are actually regarding the application, materials, concerns previously discussed. But I'd put Dr. Abram first.
That works fine with me, so flip it to Dr. Abrams before any further questions.
I think the purpose of the detention basin, wasn't that due to the placement and possible moving of it because of the trees and I think that needs to be left in there because that was a concern that we had.
And asked for them to consider moving it.
Yeah,
And he agreed to
you're
do
right. I don't want to drop that. You're correct. So keep after that, Scott, if you want to take a stab at it yourself or just see my notes, is that I'd failed to mention that we wanted to, for them to potentially submit an alternative for the detention basin.
That was up
Rick?
on top, wasn't it? Detention? It's, they talked about up there, shape of the detention.
At the
pond.
first paragraph on page 4 does mention that exactly.
It mentions it, but it, when it lists things that were mentioned, but not what was mentioned about them, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
just kind of a list, there's a discussion
An
of this. but it-
alternative.
Right, it doesn't say what we actually discussed or asked for.
Yeah. Well, up above it does say adjust the location and shape. Scott, you're the one who taken the notes on this. Do you have some concerns about the paragraph, third from the bottom, discussion?
If I may.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think whatever you decide, I'll be able to follow it. Mentioned, page 4,
Page 4, first paragraph, yes.
second sentence. So we will continue under the wetlands. Mentioned, page 4,
Page 4, first paragraph, yes.
second sentence. So we will continue under the wetlands markers under old business.
Okay. So, assuming that Scott has these notes that we just discussed, would you like us to clarify anything? For that last paragraph, the third one anyway?
I'm not sure, are we using what Leslie King?
Yeah, let me read it, and Leslie, would you like to read, or just listen, whichever way?
No, go ahead.
Okay, that third paragraph from the bottom. Discussion ensued among the commissioners and Mr. Codispoti regarding the conveyance now of the property to the town for open space, period. Mr. Codispoti asked whether the commissioners have any further questions or requests for Dr. Abram or with the application or with materials or previously discussed topics, including the submission of an alternative for the detention basin.
To be real nitpicky, you only need to say "or" once, and then you can get rid of it for the
But
rest
that's
of the
fine.
phrases.
That's fine. I did. Diana?
The word "the" was added, conveyance of the property, but I'm not sure that the property you're talking about was referred to anywhere to say the property. If you
was-
say of property, then it's kind of open for discussion, but the property has to refer to a specific property.
Yeah.
So conveyance of rather than the.
Just
Yeah.
drop the
You're
word
the-
THE.
Get rid of your,
Yes.
keep the of that's here.
Yeah, because up above it refers to which property we're talking about, but it has yet to be identified. Thank you. All right. I have no further changes, and I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended significantly tonight.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Thank you, Rick. Someone, Leslie?
Second.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Any further discussion? Any clarification needed, Scott? No? If you do, we certainly can entertain that.
I think we'll be okay.
All those in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any oppose? Any abstain? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us on that. Is there any correspondence tonight? The second item on the agenda. I didn't see any out, but I'm not sure if you had anything for us, Scott. Any routine?
The only thing what we did receive, I did not bring it down with me, but there is the new 2007 Soil Scientist Society publication is out, that we have one if anyone needs to review it. And the second one is supposed to go to the Conservation Commission, but it doesn't appear as though there's ever a need for them to want to have it, so.
They're certainly welcome to review one or both, and if anyone here wants it, and anyone in town, certainly it's on file here in the town hall. The next item on the agenda are new applications, and there's 2 items under that agenda, under that item on the agenda. For receipt, and there are none tonight, and for discussion, there are none for tonight. So that brings us to number 4 on the agenda, old business. Drew, did you have an item you wanted to talk about?
Yes, we briefly talked about wetland markers I think during the discussion of the Farm River property, and I was wondering why or how we could maybe talk about that and see if we could do that in our town.
I certainly think it's a reasonable idea to talk about it, and to what extent we can implement such a program, I guess, is determined by the number of issues related to finding out where and how many and how much it costs to put wetland markers throughout town and where they're needed. Just how do we determine all that? Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Certainly it seems like a good idea, because one of the things that happens is people seem to know where the wetlands are, but they seem to forget, or there aren't clear markers what a stone wall, as you mentioned before, may mean to people. That stone wall is representative of a delineation between area that you can take care of your lawn and fertilize versus something where we don't want you to go in and fertilize, as an example. Diana, have you or Scott any experience on putting wetland markers in or around other places, let alone in Orange, around the state?
We've had some put in Branford, and we don't have our own, which I'm considering doing. But the advantage to having specific ones is they all look the same, so they're recognizable. They know it's, the Town Wetland Commission that, you need to go to if you have any concerns about it. And also you can make sure that they last, that they aren't made cheaply or something like that. So I think it would be good.
Scott?
Several years back, I did research on this, and I did not bring it with me, but I still think I remember it fairly well. The markers were actually enameled, like maybe 4-inch high, kind of egg-shaped, oval shape, and they were colored, and they were a stamped steel with enamel coating on them. And this goes back somewhere in the last 7 to 10 years, if memory serves me correctly. The markers at the time, the cost to the town was about $4 a piece, and we were contemplating, I think, at the time, selling them for $5 a piece to developers, landowners, etc., whoever wanted them. And I truly don't remember why it failed. Why we never went forward. The information that I gleaned came from, actually, City of Milford. They have markers that they use. I think one of the things that is coming back to me, one of the things that was of concern is that a tree committee didn't want the markers nailed into the trees.
Well, that's certainly true.
Which made a lot of sense. So then it was a question of, okay, now we're going to have some posts, and if we're going to be putting posts in, then there was discussion, well, we might as well have them put up a split rail fence. If it's a metal post, depending on what they are, were dangerous. They also rot. So there was a lot of back and forth as to whether, the concept is good. I think it was the logistics of how to go about it, and of course there was whose budget does it come out of, and it's something that I would have to consider as we're doing our budget right now. I think it's due December 18th. So it's something that if we want to do, I'm going to have to do some more research on it and put it right into it. But I believe there was a lot of logistical concerns, and that's why it didn't go forward. But also the same thing is that they should be uniform. They should all be the same, and they should be certainly able to withstand the elements for a certain amount of years. And we did at one point, and are still doing it today. We just finished up on Founder's Way with concrete monuments at the wetland areas that were close to the houses. Everything else that was out farther away from the houses we weren't too concerned with. There was enough wooded buffer, but that's all the input I can give you at this time.
Well, that's plenty. That does bring to mind, I remember the Orange Land Trust dealing with marking trails and offered to a group of people's markers to put on trails, and one of the concerns of the trees was for the trees, and that you don't nail those markers into trees was an issue. So just like you said. Drew, coming back to you though, is it your vision here that these would be for only new developments, or going forward, or trying to go back and mark certain sensitive areas? What are your thoughts?
I would think that at least for new business, and then perhaps the applicant would be bearing the cost instead of the town bearing the cost of that, and addressing the tree issue. I agree with that. I did see in another municipality that they'd use roofing nails to attach a die-cut steel tag to the tree, and the tree had started to grow around it, and I could see concerns. I'm a horticulturist myself and value the trees. Perhaps rather than a steel post or a wooden post, maybe even a flexible fiberglass like they use along highway corridors, that there's risk of injury there too. So these are flexible. A car or a person could push them over and not become injured by them, yet foliage wouldn't overtake them like perhaps a shorter monument flush to the ground, or they wouldn't be easily buried. Like a concrete or something flush.
Diana?
I don't think we need to get hung up on what we're putting them on either, though, because we could put them on monuments, you could put them on split rail fences, you could put them on posts, depending on what maybe the developer wants to put in there.
Or stone walls.
Stone walls, yeah, they could be put on just about anything.
Rick?
Well, I would think they have to be set in concrete, like a 4-inch
Like a monument.
pipe, right, and place it in the concrete, because anything easy could be stolen or removed or broken. I mean, even if you put on a fence, if somebody likes to, if it's nailed down there, they'll yank it off. But if it's embedded in concrete, it's going to be tough.
There were the trails were marked out at High Ridge Road and the Housatonic Overlook, and we had used about 100 4x4 triangular trail markers that showed a little hiker carrying like a knapsack or something. They were all stolen. About 100 of them.
Wow. I think the monument situation, or the concrete aspect of it, first of all, monuments are very heavy. The regular boundary marker monument. So if you're going to require that they put them onto concrete, you might as well just forget about the markers and just put the monuments in and let it go with that, because they're difficult to put in, because they're typically, again, they're very heavy, they're tapered, they're square, actually four-sided, the bottom being almost bell-shaped as part of the taper.
How deep do they go?
So just about 3 feet.
About 3 feet.
They have to be surveyed to be installed. Has to be holes, quite large holes dug, post hole digger, you've got rocks in the way and all that type of thing. And, it can, depending upon how diligent the installer is, I mean, if the surveyor said this thing literally belongs right here, but he hits a rock and he puts it over here, well, that's not quite so bad on a wetland marker, but certainly it has a bearing if somebody's driveway is over here on a boundary marker. But the point being that in order to have them so that they were not removed, they either had to be sunk in concrete or anchored in such a fashion that they couldn't be pried off, which is, I'm pretty sure almost anybody, if they really wanted it, could pry them off in some form or fashion. So I think, God bless, I still think there's a little bit of thought in my mind, and I think that's why we decided to just go with the concrete monuments, because they had to be put out there regardless for the boundary markers of the property. And there wasn't a color chosen, but I've noticed that out of Bethany, one of the engineering surveying firms has a tendency to paint them green, so they blend in. But green, from my standpoint, and especially from call before you dig, indicates sanitary sewer. So I didn't think the green was such a good choice.
Well, noting that, we have a public hearing beginning in about 5 minutes, so that we can discuss this a little further. But one of my thoughts is, since we don't have a comprehensive plan or idea just yet, to the extent that Drew and others thought of this first, I guess, is we could handle this on a one-on-one basis. In other words, as each application comes in, and this point going forward, just deal with it ad hoc as we determine that they may be needed on that particular project. We would ask that as to the extent we can, and maybe a condition of approval, or just ask that it be part of the delineation needed between the, or on the wetlands boundary. That doesn't help us going back or delineate anything on town property, which we may want to do, or some other places that aren't coming up for development in front of the commission because there's no application. But do we want to mark some other places around town? I noticed there's a lot more of the catch basin markers that people have taken ownership of those. Those appeared in the past year or so, and people are trying to at least mark your catch basins to take care of not dump your oils and detergents down there.
And those are being removed also?
They're being removed as in hanging on bedroom walls, I suppose. Yes, I stole the speed limit sign once, and it was hanging in my wall as a teenager.
Good thing this is live, because
Yeah.
I know they're going to be coming through the door soon.
Goodbye, everybody. No, my brother's friend did it, honest. Drew, did you have some additional thoughts?
I was just going to chat that to do nothing because somebody might steal a sign might not be the right direction. Maybe if we did something and a few scofflaws or people who were ignorant or some kids that stole some signs, maybe they could be replaced. And if somebody maliciously took a sign, it would be their burden to replace the cost to the town or whoever would replace those signs.
Those could be addressed with options as those.
Speaking of which, the land trust also had those big signs made up of what you could do or not do on the property, and they were stolen,
Yep.
quite a few of those also. So
Yeah.
it really, it is an issue to deal with, and again, I kind of think that's why the old concrete
The
monuments.
monuments may be the way to go.
It's very onerous and expensive between the time to install them, the time to buy them, and the survey teams to come out there. It's a very onerous process, but I think as time goes on and we encroach more and more, even with our 100-foot, which for some reason is just that, an upland review area, I think we do need to certainly, very possibly on a case-by-case basis, get these
Yeah,
marked.
I guess I won't say the mission, but the idea here is not necessarily for us to debate the signage and how they're to be hung and how long they last and whether they're stolen. It is an idea so that we have for now and a long time into the future clear delineation of where the wetlands begin for a lot of years hence when we're not going to be here because actions were taken which now prohibit any further development beyond that point. And people won't know that unless we mark it in some permanent fashion to some extent. Yes, Michael.
Why couldn't we just make a die and cast it right into the concrete as opposed to making little signs? I mean, if you're going to put permanent boundaries out there, just make something that's going to be in the concrete anyways.
Pour concrete and impress the verbiage on there?
Yeah, but then who's going to own the die and who's going to be the one that goes out there and does it? I mean, that's
I think that's part of the process. I mean, that's part of the process that you'd have to work out. I mean, you're going to have to work out a process regardless.
That's an option. I didn't think of that one as that you'd be pouring wet concrete. I think the ones they have now are already cast and you carry them out there, dig the holes, set them in and fill around it. Yeah, they're not pouring them.
Yeah.
Other thoughts on this? We'll take another minute or so. Drew?
To jump on that idea, I think that's a good idea. Maybe taking some kind of die cut something and a sign and screwing it to the top with a security screw, like a tamper-proof screw, which we could use a precast concrete and then attach a Town of Orange symbol or something that says Wetlands Town of Orange.
I can assure you that those monuments are difficult to drill.
They're hard,
They're hard.
and for good reason.
And for good reason. I've also seen it happen on many sites over the past many years where the monument shortener comes out because somebody ran into a rock. And they just smash it over whatever happens to be handy close by, or they grab a rock and they shorten it. And I've seen monuments be only this long, and those have had to be removed and replaced. Again, they may have been scotched over a little bit, one way or the other, but certainly anything like that is, again, it's
Well, let's
It's arduous.
stop that discussion here because it is 8 o'clock and we have a public hearing that must continue. But not forget this and bring it back up at the next meeting or two, whichever we can, because there are some good ideas here and I think we should pursue it. Just how and when is the matter. The next item on the agenda tonight, actually it's not. We were going to try to squeeze in the enforcement officer's report.
We can do that.
Can we do that in a minute? Thank you.
We can do that. I just want to let you know that last Monday, the Cuz Acres folks, we all went to court, Paul, Denise, myself, and town's councils, and fines have been imposed on the recalcitrants out there. They did not show at all, but the judge imposed a $350 a day fine from last Monday going forward until something is done as far as remediation plans goes. And so far, nothing has been done. Just
Wow. What court was that?
Superior Court in Milford.
Thank you.
The Air National Guard site, I was been in contact again with some folks from CH2M Hill. Actually, they're out of Wisconsin, this particular group, and they took the drainage calculations from the earth material site, because that detention basin that is up there was taking some of the runoff from the Air National Guard site, and I think they're going to utilize some of that detent basin once I got the dug up the old drainage reports that Don Ballou did. And they're still looking for spring of this year to redo the detent ponds and control the volume up there. So we're still moving forward, and that's it for me.
That's good. Thank you.